Single Malt Whisky Club here, and what an April we have in store for you. Not one, but two club favourites this month, both with new offerings for us to enjoy. Firstly, the long-awaited return of one of our most requested distilleries and their latest Icons of Wales limited edition offering, Penderyn's The Headliner. It's delicious and it's exclusive to the Single Malt Whisky Club. And to back this up, an all-new offering from whisky legend Mike Collins' Firkin brand. This time it's an Inchgower 2010 vintage that has received the Firkin Rare treatment. So, round about once a year, but not a set in stone sort of schedule, Penderyn release a new edition of their Icons of Wales limited release whiskies. Each of these whiskies are specially selected to celebrate an iconic Welsh thing. So past releases in the Icon series have honoured poets, they've honoured incredible rugby tries, and they even did a bottle honouring the American Declaration of Independence due to the number of Welsh ties in the signatures. Last year, we managed to get an allocation of the Rhiannon that celebrated an iconic Welsh folk story goddess. Our April malt of the month is the Penderyn The Headliner. It's ninth in the Icon series. This one celebrates the only Welshman ever to sit as Prime Minister of England, David Lloyd George. He was an extraordinary politician and humanitarian. Lloyd George was responsible for many sweeping social changes, child labour laws for one. He's said to have been the subject of more headlines than any other politician, hence the name of the whisky. But to us whisky lovers, he's perhaps best remembered as the man who unintentionally really set the UK and Scottish whisky production as the world's sort of standard in quality, thus ensuring the success of an industry he as a teetotaler despised. You see, in the midst of World War I, Lloyd George was Chancellor of the Exchequer, a pretty important role in British government. In 1915, it was becoming patently obvious that the expenditure of munitions in the war was far outstripping Britain's capacity to produce them, and it wasn't only a supply issue. Massive inefficiencies in the workforce were attributed to the amount of public drunkenness, and that was in part due to the availability of very cheap, unaged, or barely aged spirit coming out of mainly Scottish distilleries. Of this, he said, drink is doing more damage in the war than all the German submarines put together. So in 1915, Lloyd George, remember he's a teetotaler, he brought the Immature Spirits Restriction Act 1915 into law in the UK. So this was the law that stated whisky must be aged for 3 years and 1 day in oak casks. It was hoped that this would cause the collapse of the industry and thus the prevention of all that booze getting onto the streets. Luckily, though, there were enough distilleries concerned with producing quality spirit and that had aged and aging stock on hand that were able to trade through the new law. So almost instantly, the only whisky coming out of the UK was of suitable quality that demand, both domestically and internationally, skyrocketed. And so that in turn brought new investors flocking in to buy these distilleries that had closed down. Investors, that is, with deep enough pockets to allow them to take the time to get aged whisky onto the market. So the Act was responsible for making Scottish, or United Kingdom, whisky the world standard in quality and desirability for so many years. In short, I guess it's fair to say that the avid teetotaler unintentionally ensured the UK whisky industry was seen as a premium product and set it up to rule the world in malt whisky production pretty much even to this day. So the Penderyn Headliner, to celebrate this man, is made from 100% Welsh barley and aged for an undisclosed amount of time in Jamaican rum and ruby port casks, bottled at 46%. So it's a great story, and it's a magnificently packaged whiskey. Now, I don't really mention packaging much, but this one is pretty striking, I've got to say, and you'll see what I mean when you get yours. So, how does it taste? Well, look, there it is. Well, here it is. It's a reddy, pinky tinged gold colour on the nose. Oh, look, there's lovely summer stone fruits, cherries, plums, peaches, and with a hint of tart pineapple there. There's more than just fruit here. There's like dew lollies, there's floral jasmine wafts, and just a hint of paprika there as well. Yum. On the palate, on the palate, a real crispy, clean mouthful with just a hint of pepper. There's really sweet notes on the nose, don't carry through so much here as promised. It's quite a dry affair. There is a sweetness at first, don't get me wrong, but soon overtaken by sort of sharp, crunchy fruit notes, like think Granny Smith apple and sort of tart cherries. And it's backed with a mild tannin astringency there. A little bit sort of cheek sucking. The finish, oh yeah, it's a lovely fruitiness with a sugar gum and honey sweetness that comes through at the end, but it's given some really pleasant edges by the white pepper notes. It's a crisp and clean spirit. Just a nice amount of tartness that just begs to go around again as you're nosing the next one. Yum. It's fruity, dry, and crisp. Now, yum. Oh, that's good. Now, onto our optional extra, and we are super excited because we've got an exciting new whiskey from the legend Mike Collings and his Firkin Whisky Company. This is one of the Firkin Rare Expressions, a 2010 vintage Inchgower, single cask, bottled last year, making it 12 years old if my maths holds up. Inchgower Distillery is notable in that the vast majority, like 99.9% of it, goes into various Diageo blended scotches like Bell's and Johnny Walker and Whitehorse. Only a couple of distillery releases of single malt whiskey have been made, so it's lucky for us that indie bottlers like Mike Collings are able to secure some of this lovely whiskey for bottling as a single malt. Now, the Firkin Rare Whiskies are personally chosen casks by Mike Collings, who then finishes them in Firkin's custom casks, which are made of alternative first fill bourbon and brand new French oak staves. So these custom casks are then seasoned with what Mike calls the whiskey's soulmate pairing. So in this case, the Inchgower is finished in a Pedro Ximinez seasoned Firkin cask for just shy of 2 years and bottled at 48.9%. So, how does it taste? Here it is, and look, it's lovely, classic golden colour, I guess. The nose, wow, it's quite a complex nose there. There's a real malted milkshake feel at first, but then further investigation brings out a sweet floral notes over sort of vanilla beans and CWA peanut brickle. On the palate, oh, it's just so thick and rich and creamy. There's butterscotch, there's rich date pudding, dancing with vanilla creme brulee. But then there's also like a it's a nutty, almost almondini note that sits in the background alongside just a 15th of aniseed there. Yum. And the finish? Oh, it definitely doesn't disappoint. It's big spicy fruit mince hit, backed up with a Nutrigrain maltiness on that chewy fade out. It's pretty Firkin Moorish, Mr. Collings. Let me tell you. And that is our April. 2 huge whiskies from the UK. The latest Welsh icon from Penderyn, The Headliner, exclusive in Australia to the Single Malt Whisky Club. And for the first time in Australia, the Firkin Rare Inchgower 2010 Pedro Ximinez. Both utterly sensational. The Penderyn crisp and dry and delicious. The Firkin is rich and sweet and nutty. Wow, what a month. What a choice. It's no choice really. You can get both like me. Until next month, I'm Brad Wright, /bar.